Hey everyone, Mo here, and before the video begins, I just want to let you guys know that my schedule has opened up for me to do coaching again. So if you're interested in private one-on-one coaching for me to help you, whether you're a newer player and you want to excel at the game very quickly and learn the fundamentals without developing any bad habits early, or if you're an experienced player who's already maybe platinum or diamond in your top 1%, but you need some help filling in the gap to get you to that 0.01%, to make you just some of the best, then hit me up on Discord and I can get you in some private one-on-one coaching lessons to help you polish up any skills you want to refine and help you learn all of the secrets to becoming a top player. That's it. I hope you enjoy the video. Hey everybody, Mo here, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys some of the best lineups you can play for the first week of Legends of Runeterra tournaments and the World Waker expansion. So we have a really big tournament coming up this week. It's a $500 tournament being put on by Master Runeterra and GG Tour. So shout outs to them. Thanks for putting on such a nice event, big prize pool. And if you're wondering what decks to kind of play or what lineups to play in those tournaments, this video is going to be for you. If you don't really care too much about competitive gameplay, you don't care about the best of 3 lineups and stuff like that, then this video probably isn't too much for you. We're not going to be talking about ladder or decks that are going to be good on ladder. This is just going to be purely for tournaments. So let's go and get into it. I have 4 good lineups here for you, and there is a 5th lineup. I just didn't know how to make it, so I didn't, because I didn't want to give you guys bad deck lists, and then you yell at me that you went 0-2 in your tournament and be like, your deck lists suck. So I didn't make it, but I'll go and tell you. One lineup that I did not put in here is like a triple Targon style lineup, abusing the new Winding Light, or whatever its card name is, the like new Overwhelm unit that gives all your units +2/+1 in Overwhelm. That card is really good, and Targon is really good in general, because the best deck in the game right now is... Oops, it's not in this lineup. The best deck in the game right now is this Viego Noxus deck, and Targon has like an okay time against it, because Hush is really good against the Legion Deserter. Hush isn't too great against Viego, but it's okay against like Legion Deserter. So on top of that, Winding Light just being such a great finisher that some type of triple Targon is going to be really good. So that's your secret 5th lineup. I kind of get that out the way first. And the other kind of thing I want to preface all of these with is, whenever you're playing in a tournament, the best lineup for you is going to be whatever decks you're comfortable with. Don't worry about tier lists. Don't worry about decks like this or lineups like these. If you have 0 experience on the deck, you're going to do probably poorly. So and this is for smaller tournaments, like this $500 tournament. I say smaller in the sense of like worlds and seasonals, which I'm about to get to. And even to the big tournaments, like huge majors, like seasonals and world qualifiers and stuff like that. I always tell people the best lineup to play is just your 3 most comfortable decks. The 3 decks that you're best at, the 3 decks that you know everything about. That's going to be your best bet. But if you feel pretty comfortable, you kind of want some direction, that's what this guide here is for. So I'm going to start off, get right in here, and I have an aggro deck, a mid-range deck, a combo deck, and then I have my personal lineup that I'm going to be playing at the end. So let's go and jump in here and talk about the first deck we have, which is pure aggro and burn. Surprise, surprise. So this lineup is really good into things like Thralls and Talia Ziggs and Pantheon. So aggro burn is going to be really good into a lot of decks that can't really deal with the swarm early game, and decks that don't have lifesteal. So decks like Pantheon, because they don't go wide very fast, they usually just play 1, maybe 2 units and go really big on those units, really struggle against these swarmy aggro style decks, because you're just able to go, okay, I'm 6 wide on turn 3, right? Or 6 wide on turn 4, and I'm just going to start attacking you. So by the time Pantheon decks usually play down their like first unit, maybe even second unit at most, you're already going to be 6 wide and kind of just smorking down their face. And that's before you do things like Decimate and Fervor. And those decks don't really have lifesteal outside of like, if you somehow don't kill them before they level up Pantheon and play Pantheon, Pantheon might roll lifesteal. But outside of that, they have like 3 Guiding Touch, which is pretty irrelevant to you in the sense of life gain, to the amount of just burn and damage you're doing. So the pros to this deck, or the pros to this lineup, is you're going to beat a lot of the can't deal with swarmy decks and can't gain life decks. So that's, again, going to be your Pantheon or your combo-esque decks. And the cons to this deck is you're going to do pretty poorly into any type of control deck or deck that does have a lot of life gain. So decks that can kind of match your early game, block your early game unit damage, and then kind of put you on a really fast clock. That's going to be kind of hard for Burn to deal with. And decks that can kind of remove your early game units and then gain life to get past the fact of like, oh, I'm in decimate range because I'm at 4 HP. Well, I'm just going to gain a little bit of HP, and now you have to have decimate and another burn spell, which is usually pretty difficult for burn decks to do kind of towards the end there. So that's what this deck is weak to. That's what this deck is good into. Deck number 2, we're going to go over, or lineup number 2 is the overall just like mid-range lineup. So we're in a very mid-range heavy meta. If you watch my meta Monday, you'll know that. A lot of the best decks right now are in fact mid-range decks, and the best deck right now in the game is is Viego Noxus. This is easily the best deck in the game at the moment. It's very hard to deal with. Very few decks can actually deal with the amount of just pure threats this deck plays between Viego and Deserter and Hydrovine. It's hard to deal with those. This deck has access to Disintegrate, so if you're like a really big unit deck, doesn't matter. Block you with the Spider, Disintegrate you, you're dead. Vile Feast, Disintegrate you, you're dead. Vengeance you, straight up, you're dead. If you're aggro, we have Blocks early, we have Withering Well early, we have House Spiders early, we have Sentry early. Again, Vile Feast. So we have ways to stop like early game Swarm. If you're a control deck that tries to go really late, it's like, well, we have more threats than you usually have answers to. And then if you do eventually answer and kill my Viego or kill my Deserter, we play Haunted Tomb to go ahead and bring those threats back. We have Atrocity to kind of just kill you at any moment. We have 7 mana open. So this deck is by far the best deck in the game at the moment. And honestly, you could put this deck in every single lineup. The only reason I didn't was because I didn't want to just, I didn't want it to look like I was lazy and saying like, oh yeah, just play like Noxus, Viego, and then any 2 decks. Which it realistically is something you could do because this deck is just super strong. Something I wanted to touch on and why I may be saying like, whoa, why your champions look like that? 2 reasons. 1, I'm a crackhead. And 2, I think we're actually going away from the 3-3 split in champions in general. I think a lot of early Runeterra decks, because we had such few regions and such few good cards and good champions, we were almost forced into playing 3-3 split between champions, which means like 3 Viego and then like 3 Elise, or 3 Viego and 3 Kindred. But now that we have so many more champions, and most of them are usually good, or at least serve a role or a purpose, and they're good in that purpose and in that role, we can kind of get away from doing 3-3. And I think we'll start seeing a lot of decks go to a 3-2-1 style split, where you get like, your 3 champion, that's going to be your kind of build around champion or your main win condition. So in this case, that's Viego, because we have a bunch of mist, and Viego's good with Atrocity. It's going to be your main win condition. And then you can split the last 3 champions across any cards that kind of support that main win condition, or are even like their own secondary or tertiary win condition themselves, and that's going to be like the Katarina. So for this instance, we have the Kindred and Elise, which kind of help support the Viego in going to the control-y, late game, whereas Kindred is able to just really go kill 2 units at a time. It's going to be really good against mid-range. It's going to be really good against early aggro. If you just go like turn 4 Kindred, Vile Feast 1 unit, boom, you just, gained a life, killed 2 units for free at the end of turn. That's going to be really good. Elise is just a 2-mana 2-3, so that's going to be typically pretty good for blocking units on your opponent's side as an aggro deck. And then Katarina is really good as far as having an extra win condition. So not against the aggro or mid-range decks, but against the control decks. This gives you a way to actually win the game and close the game out. So against control decks, it's like, hey, combo decks, hey, I now have an extra clock. My clock was going to be, 2 or 3 turns from now. Well, now that I leveled up my Katarina and you don't have any removal for it because you're Talia Ziggs, or because you're Thralls and don't want to waste 4 mana to only kill Katarina at this point, my clock now just went from being 2 or 3 turns away to being, 4 turns to being like next turn. Or, I've significantly ramped it up because now I'm playing Viego and this big Overwhelm Legion Deserter with Rally, a rally a turn, sometimes 2 rallies a turn. So I think I really like this split, and this is going to be the deck that I'm on. This is my deck list that I'll be playing this weekend. The other 2 decks I have here is just, Alawi Demacia variant, whichever variant you prefer. This is the highest win rate deck at the moment for Alawi Demacia, so I just threw it up here. And then, of course, Faded. Faded's still extremely broken, so no reason to not play Faded in a mid-range meta, and it is, a really good mid-range deck. The third lineup that we have here is the kind of combo-esque style lineup. So this lineup is going to be really good against your control decks. It's going to be really good against your like PNZ Noxus decks, but this lineup is going to be very weak against your aggro burn style decks. This deck is going to be pseudo weak, or kind of weak to these, to these mid-range decks with rallies. So like, you know, the Alawi, Jarvan, Garen with, you know, 3 golden ages, the Pantheon Yumi with golden ages. The Viego Noxus just purely because thralls are not an issue. By the time your opponent gets thralls on turn 5, you usually have pretty decently sized units, or you just go, okay, Vengeance 1, and now you just have to deal with an 8/8 thrall on turn 5, and it's really not that big of a deal. So this can kind of struggle against the mid-range decks. It can struggle against the aggro decks, but you're going to smoke control. So this is traditional control being the like SI Freljord control, and you're going to do really well into the Noxus PNC deck. No matter what you think or what people tell you, Scorched Earth does not beat Lissandra Taliyah. Scorched Earth does not beat Taliyah Ziggs. And I put, obviously this has 2 Taliyah decks in it, so you can't play both Ziggs Taliyah and Lissandra Taliyah. This is just more to give you an idea of like what combo decks you could put. So like you could easily replace Taliyah Ziggs with like Azir Aurelia, you know, for instance. You could replace this again with Viego Noxus. So yes, I know before you go to the comments and say, but Mo, this lineup has 2 Taliyahs and that's illegal. I know that. I'm just giving you an idea of what the lineup could look like. So Thralls is easily the best here. So you could just play like Thralls, Viego Noxus, and then any third combo deck you want. I put, you know, Riven Fizz is really good. Again, Azir Aurelia, really good. You know, you could even play something like Bard Zed is going to be really good, something like that. And yeah, that's a lineup. And the very last lineup I have here for you, this is my lineup that I'm going to be playing. I call it the anti-midrange lineup. And it's going to be Viego Noxus, of course, because deck is broken, and I feel really comfortable on the deck. Ziggs, Annie, Noxus, and Kaelin Ezreal. So you see here, I'm on triple Noxus. I think I'm 9 copies of Disintegrate. No, not quite 9, but like Disintegrates in every single deck. Arachnoid Sentries in every single deck. Flocks in every single deck. Raven Blooms in 2 of the 3 decks. So you see a pattern here, and I've kind of worked on this. I didn't work on this deck at all, but I've thought about this lineup a lot, and it was kind of slid to me by a friend named SnipeCrossGG. You guys might know him from just top 32, the most recent seasonal. And I talked about, I actually was fortunate enough to be an analyst there for that seasonal. And I talked about how Snipecross is a player where he likes to find a style or, you know, something about the meta that he thinks is really good, and he kind of just abuses it the most he can. And right now, you know, he believes, and I agree with, actually, I don't know if he believes this because he didn't like strictly tell me, but I can assume from the decks he gave me that we kind of have the same idea that Disintegrate broken, Flock broken, like Stun Spiders broken. So we're kind of just trying to figure out how we can abuse these really good Noxus cards across the entire pool. And it looks something like this, where you get to play, you know, your anti-Zig. So this is going to be like a burn. Of course, you have your Disintegrate for all the big mid-range decks. You have your anti-aggro with things like House Spider, all your early removal spells. And then, you know, same here. You have your anti-aggro with all your early units, all your removal spells, early units, early removal spells. You beat mid-range decks because you have this, you know, Disintegrate basically just says 2 mana, I kill big unit. There's nothing they can really do about that. And then you close games out pretty easily with these 2 decks, the anti-Ziggs and the Kaelin Ezreal, with the Raven Bloom Conservatory, because this just makes all your burn spells do so much more damage. It's insane. Like, it just says deal 1 more damage, but that's a pretty big jump. You know, that makes this do 100% more damage. You know, it makes some of the like Mystic Shot deal 33% more damage. So if you take that, instead of saying like deal 1 more damage, right? And you go, okay, make you deal 100% more damage. Make you deal double damage on this. Make you deal 33% more damage on this. Like, that sounds a lot more scary than just 1 extra damage, right? So really excited to play this lineup. I've been practicing hard. I've been scrimming hard. And yeah, so these are the lineups I would recommend to either practice to prepare for the tournament this weekend, or if you want to practice against these, if you have a friend that plays any of these decks, you know, I think these decks could be pretty popular, so look out for those. If you guys are interested in this more competitive content with the best of 3 lineups, if you're interested in seeing me do some like, you know, scrims or do some competitive playtesting with other people, let me know in the comments down below if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, I'll just try and keep it mostly to the like ladder stuff, maybe like the more fun decks, the still, you know, deck guys, stuff like that. But let me know down in the comments below what you guys would prefer. I always appreciate the feedback. I'm always looking, I'm always responding to comments, so I'd really appreciate it. But that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you did enjoy and you do like the content I put out, feel free to leave a sub, turn notifications on so you don't miss anything. But that's gonna be it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.